Hey everyone, Warwick's here. So welcome into a new series that I'm doing. I'll try to do these for every dungeon season that I can, but I'm basically going to do quick-ish guides on the Mythic Plus dungeon pool. Today we're going to start with Maisara Caverns, the first of the 8 dungeons that we'll be seeing in Midnight Season 1, and there'll be subsequent videos coming out on all 7 dungeons as quick guides for what you need to know going into season 1. So if you want to get more of these quick guides, I'll put these all into a playlist, but also remember to like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel here so that you are notified, or you can have this come into your feeds when you are looking for this information. So in these videos, we'll kind of go over some of the main kind of general pathing that you can take. You're not going to necessarily be the quote-unquote best routes. Those will be figured out as the season goes on, but these are some things that you can kind of think about if you're new to tanking or you're new to the dungeon. Some things to think about. I'll talk about major mobs that you want to be on the lookout for, and then I'll show a little bit of boss footage that I got from beta on every single boss in this instance, as well as in Maisara Caverns, the one major gimmick towards the end of the dungeon. So we'll open up our trusted Mythic dungeon tools here. And as you can see, I've got a route that's, like I said, it's not perfect, but it is one that you can kind of think about. Now, in this first area right here, before we get to the first boss, one of the big things that actually is a gimmick of this dungeon is that you have to free 8 prisoners before you can actually even attack the first boss. So a lot of the pathing and the routing that you're seeing here is designed with trying to pull around where some of these prisoners are located so that you can get all 8 before you actually get into the first boss. Now, these mobs are marked on your map with yellow circles when you open up the dungeon map, even inside the Mythic Plus key, so you'll know where to go. And they're identified, of course, as being Amani trolls with green health bars in the event you run friendly health bars up there as well, so you know where to go. So your trash is going to be, a lot of it is going to be based on what set of prisoners you want to free, so different tanks might have different routes for that. Again, we'll continue to figure out the major ones as we go through. But this is just kind of one that I kind of ran in just a +5 key on beta. Nothing big, but it was just enough to show kind of like what the mechanics of every boss are. And there are some mobs that you want to keep a lookout on in this first area. First off, it's going to be this Dread Soul Eater. Because it has this necrotic wave that you want to make sure that you're casting, because it does put out a healing absorb, as well as knowing these Rain of Toads. So you kind of want to watch your feet and be not spread far out, but kind of tightly spread out, or kind of loose spread throughout this, especially if you're running like a multiple range group, or if you're like a full heavy melee stack, you're going to have to watch your feet the entire time. But in this first pack, in terms of everything that's going on here with these berserkers that are mostly melee, these laborers are melee, the bears are all melee. A lot of this is just melee. Now, these berserkers do have like a regenerating thing that you kind of have to be on the lookout for. And they do have this blood frenzy, which isn't in rage. So if you're a druid, a evoker with oppressing roar, bonus talented on, a hunter, paralyzed from a monk, anyone that has a soothe effect, you can use those on these berserkers to try and calm that down, but we will leave that completely up to you and what you can do. Other kind of big trash mobs to be on the lookout for here, these unbound eagles right here, these hexbound eagles, they will target someone at random and just constantly claw at them. You're just gonna have to move out of the way of it. They don't follow you anywhere, but they do just go with you. So you can see here these shredding talons. It does it in a frontal cone, so you just want to make sure that you are just moving, like if it channels on you to your right side pointing left, you just go to the back of the bird and you'll avoid all the damage. These Hex Guardians are the other big ones that you want to look at, because they have this fire damage, these magma surges, but they are pretty straightforward mobs to do, along with the masks. And then the other one is these hulking juggernauts that you want to look into. You may not pull a lot of these, but the ones that do, you want to make sure that you do. And the big one is the deafening roar. This is just like any mob that we've had in dungeons past that does have a mass AoE interrupt if you're casting for this. So you do want to pay attention to this ability going out. It is not interruptible, so you're just gonna have to be mindful of it if you're a caster or a healer. Don't be casting while this is going on. I did get clipped by this on my Devour casting Consume, actually, and it interrupted it and locked me out of, and Cosmic locked me for a while, which is all a Devourer's damage. So you're just going to basically pull and make sure that you get around all of these mobs. I'm not seeing anything else here. Most of these mobs are physical damage, so your tank just kind of has to be... Oh, these hexers, that's the other one. They do have a shadow bolt that you can kick, or you can kick the hex if you can get to it. That's the other one that you want to look out for. That's really the biggest kick in the first part of this dungeon. All right. So basically, once you free all your 8 prisoners, you're going to come down here to Murogen and Necrax. Now, these bosses are... This is a duo boss, obviously, cleave boss, but they have some interesting mechanics. And I'll throw the footage up here so that you can see this. But you can see here that they have this flanking spear and then these infected pinions. So your tank is going to pull. Murogen is going to jump around, so your tank is going to constantly be moving around to do this. Now, one thing that I would say that we didn't do in this pug, but I would recommend, is that if you're a more ranged group like we are with BM Hunter and Devastation Evoker with a Priest, is that we probably need to stay up a little bit lighter. As per usual, you want to make sure that you are dodging anything on the ground, because they will lay these traps that if you run over them, will freeze you for multiple seconds and spread the trap with ice patches on the ground. So this fight has a lot of space denial built into it. So this barrage, it does target and follow the player. So if you get targeted with it, you just need to move away from the rest of your team. And I do recommend using a defensive ability if you're a DPS or healer for that, so that you don't get there. And as you can see, we get one of these patches in the back here that does grow out, and you can see this, just the amount of space denial that it brings. Now, these two bosses, they don't share health pools. As you can see, they are not on a shared health pool at this point in time. Or they are on a shared health pool, at least for temporarily purposes. So you want to try to cleave these down as evenly as you can throughout the whole fight. But that's really it. So you basically just want to dodge the giant spears when the pinions come out. You want to watch for the barrage. And then he has, of course, the Quell Storm that does big AoE damage, and that drops all of that. So this one is a lot about positioning by both your tanks and positioning by the DPS that gets targeted with the barrage. Now, it has the carry and swoop, which does target someone, and you can push them through the traps in order to make sure that they get stunned, and allows you to get a little bit of extra damage out on Necrax. So as you can see here, now their health pool isn't shared anymore, as Murogen has a much higher health pool than Necrax does right now. So that's something that you want to be mindful of, because you do have to try, like I said, it is a good idea to try and cleave these down together. As you can see, we kill Necrax here early. You can see he goes to revive the pet. So you're basically in a DPS race to try and kill him before the revived pet goes off. We don't get it here. So that's why you want to try to cleave these down as quickly as you can. Otherwise, you're just going to be in this constant loop. Now, when you kill Murogen and Necrax is still up, he obviously goes into this big enrage and he hammers the tank. Now, Brewmaster is in a pretty good spot in terms of power, so it's not the big deal. But you're in a race now to try and kill this thing before it starts murdering all of your friends. So that's the first boss in the dungeon, and so I definitely would recommend just being mindful of that with that charge. I defensive did obviously and didn't take a lot of damage, but it does do a lot, and at higher level keys, I'm sure it will definitely be quite dangerous. All right. So then you're going to move on to the second boss. You get your waypoint, and you're going to come into this room where the main mob that you want to think about here. Now, I put it all together. Some people will pull this together. Some people will probably pull this in 2 or 3 pulls. But this Roxal is the mini boss here. And he's actually standing next to an altar where you can see these other 2 mobs are at. Now, he does an ability called Umbral Vortex, which does a little bit of space denial, but the big thing he's going to do is this Death's Grasp, where he's going to grab somebody and stick them on the coffin that's in the middle of the room, and start a channel down. So you either have to defeat the chains that are on there, or anything that removes like roots will actually work as well, because it's considered a root effect. So I don't know if Hunter Disengage works. Star Hunter, I don't think got selected, so he couldn't test it. But I know Tiger's Lust works, and I know Blessing of Freedom works. So if you're a Paladin or a Monk player, you may want to be able to have that for one of your friends if you're not selected for the Death's Grasp. All right. Any other thing? These Bound Defenders do have a giant shield that they will do. This Vigilant Defense, which basically it's much like the Boston Streets in the music hall where he puts up the big shield and it blocks all attacks coming from that side. So you have to position yourself accordingly around this vigilant defense. And of course he does do soul storms here, 2 giant tornadoes that walk around, so you want to make sure that you're avoiding those. These hollow soul renders also have a shadow frost blast that you're going to want to make sure that you kick, as well as rend souls. That is a channeled thing, so you might want to coordinate a little bit on that. But other than that, those mobs are pretty much nothing. Again, lots of reanimated warriors. Now, the reanimated warriors, upon death, they do have a bar that you can kick or CC, that if you don't kick it in time, they actually will stand back up and you have to fight them again. But they don't count for any extra counts. You can't abuse them in order to get some free count and stuff like that. So just have a kick or a CC or a stun or whatever, anything basically that stops, quote unquote, stops casting, whether it's an interrupt or just a general CC, will work on these reanimated warriors once they die. All right, and then it's a lot of more of these just soul renders and bound defenders. So you're just going to want to play with these accordingly. And that brings us up to Vordaza, the second boss. Now this boss can be a little tough, especially if you don't understand what's going on with the boss fight. So Vordaza is quite interesting because what he's going to do is he is going to put 4 portals kind of on the where you see these pillars are at in the kind of back and left and right corners. He's going to summon ads from those here, and you can see these rest phantoms that's on the timeline there that are going to come out in just a couple of seconds. So what happens is that each of these targets a player, and there are 2 ways to get rid of them. You can either kill them, but they're hard to kill, and as you can see, they move pretty quick, or someone can run into them. As you can see here, I'm going to run into 2 of them right there, and I take a decent chunk of damage. And of course, you get the final pursuit, which is much like the old wise Mari from Temple of the Jade Serpent thing there. So as you can see, they leave behind puddles. Now these puddles do slowly dissipate over time, so you have to be smart about how you're using your space. But the phantoms are the thing that are going to be the hardest mechanic in this fight. As long as you can handle the phantoms and you can spread your damage out to where you're not taking these too much. You can see, again, I almost die there. As long as you spread the damage out and then you don't deny your space too much on the floor, then your healer's going to be able to work with that. If you're going to target one of the things to run into them, I definitely recommend defensively if you have it. Will immunities work? I'm not sure. Now, Necrotic Convergence, he will get a shield on himself and he summons all these orbs. This is a pretty standard WoW boss mechanic, and this Convergence, you do need to interrupt. But one of the things that this group and I discovered is that you can actually let that sit, because even though there's massive AoE damage going out, it's free damage going out that you have the ability to go for until either your healer's like, hey, this doesn't feel comfortable, or someone accidentally kicks it like we did here. So there is a possibility that that mechanic, as long as your healer is okay and everyone defensives, you can cheese that convergence mechanic so that you can get a lot of free damage off. Now, as you get into higher keys, especially on tyrannical weeks, when tyrannical is coming into play, are you going to be able to cheese that as much as we did in this 5? Probably, probably not. You're going to have to limit test on your own. And then we get into our final stretch of the dungeon, which is the bridge. Now, the bridge here in the Echoing Span has a really fun mechanic. And by fun, I mean completely annoying. Where once you encounter these skirmishers, you will see here, which you can see right about here when I kind of shift to my right, you'll be able to see it more clearly. You can see at the top of the screen towards the back here, you see these green waves coming down. That's because at the top of the stairs, at the very back of this, there is a drummer that is basically summoning pulsing waves. And you have to deal with them while you're also trying to kill this trash. So as long as you deal with that, you can see here, I'm going to get hit by it here. It just knocks you up, and it did a good chunk of my health. It did, a third of my health, basically. So while you're fighting this trash, you also have to be managing that, which is why you see a lot of groups will just pull the mobs, will pick a side, and will just pull the mobs as far off to the side as possible, because they basically go down 3 to 4 lanes more in the middle. And then you have to get up to the top of the stairs, and then I recommend that you kill the drummer, even if you're overcount, because that will stop all the waves from going out. before you engage with the last boss. Now, the last boss here is Raktul. And Raktul, actually, I think is one of my favorite bosses in this dungeon. So he's going to be definitely a hit point sponge. So as you can see, he's going to slam down on your tank and put this huge space denial on the floor. So again, this is going to be a situation where you're going to want to loose stack if you're a range setup and melee stack. Now this crushed souls, as you can see, he's going to pick people and he's going to leap. Now I can use Devour Shift to get out of it. Other classes may not be so lucky, but then he leaves behind these soulbind totems every time he jumps. So the goal here is you want to try to keep them, and then what they'll do is they'll latch onto the person that they spawned from and pull that person into the totem. So you want to kill those totems because they're just going to pull everything all the way around. Again, as we get more experience with the dungeon, there might be strats that mess around with the totems a little bit to kind of make them work. As you can see, I ate that one and took like big health, no defensive on my part, so that was a problem on my side. So you can see these totems are big priority. So you're going to want good cleave, or you're just going to have to turn and nuke single target each one. As you can see, this one, I kind of got ignored a little bit, and then I helped the priest, I think, got jumped on there. Now this consume right here, he's going to blast you and knock you back to the start of the bridge into a soul world. And what you have to do is you basically have to run back before he finishes his channel of soul expulsion. Now, the thing is that if you touch these ghosts, they will stun you for like 4 or 5 seconds, and you can interrupt those malignant souls to give you a little bit more pathing opportunities. Now, again, as a demon hunter, no concerns about speed, but warlocks, priests, and even non-death Rider of the Apocalypse DKs, you might struggle with it. But your goal basically is to get back before soul expulsion happens. And the faster you get there, the more free damage you're going to be able to get off onto Raktul, even though he is channeling these circles down on the floor. And that's basically the fight. You rinse and repeat until he is dead. Now, we ended up going through, I think, 2 phases of this on this key. Even though our damage, I think, was pretty solid overall. But the big thing is going to be just making sure that you are kind of grouped up in a way that the totems don't troll you. That's going to be the thing that's going to kill people the most on this, is just getting hit by the leaps if you can. You can see, I can shift out of it and it's not a problem. But as you can see, we had our 2 of these totems really close, and then our 3rd one was very far, and it ended up kind of trolling us a little bit here in this dungeon. So if you can help your friends pull out their totem, like you see, I'm here helping the hunter with his. And then our melee got theirs over with the other one. So again, in an ideal world, you're going to stay somewhat relatively close to each other so that when these go out, and I jumped too early there, but you can still get out even just running like I did there. So you can see these are quite spread out. There's going to be strategies where you're going to want to stay a lot closer so that you can go. And you can see when you sit inside the soulbind itself, you take a lot of damage. So you want to kill them while avoiding going inside that damage. So the totems, I think, are going to be the biggest thing that kill people on this fight. But as long as you position them accordingly, you're going to be just fine. And that is the dungeon guide for Maisara Caverns. If you have any questions or anything that you have concerns about, definitely put them in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. More of these are going to be following, so definitely make sure that you are following along with the channel. And you can catch me on Twitch at twitch.tv/warwickctv. I'm streaming generally Tuesday through Friday, with some Saturdays depending on childcare stuff with my parenting time. And we're going to be streaming a ton of WoW, mostly obviously with the expansion basically now essentially upon us, with the new season starting on the 17th of March, or has already started by the time you're watching this. And so definitely join me there if you want to watch me work my way through these dungeons. I love Mythic Plus. It's my favorite mode in the game. I raid so that I can Mythic Plus better. So yeah, I'll be doing a lot of guides and stuff on this. And as I get new routes figured out, and I figure out some things with best mobs and worst mobs to pull, I'll definitely be updating routes that I will be posting, and I'll try to post those through various different channels or anything like that. So until the next video, I hope you all stay safe. Hope you enjoy yourself, you're having fun, you keep on gaming, and we'll see you next time.